Today we're going to make a shelf for little boxes. This video is sponsored by Dashlane. More about their password storing services a bit later. I started this project the way I start every project, with careful planning and a detailed sketch. I lined up all the boxes with spacers to figure out exactly how big I needed each shelf to be. I made my marks on a full sheet of plywood and then laid out the track saw, and then remembered that I didn't leave enough space for the saw to go on it. Take two, I pulled it away from the wall, laid the track saw down, and then still didn't have enough space. Well, third time's the charm. Usually for a lot of straight, repetitive cuts like this in plywood, you'd want to use a table saw to get the most accurate cuts. But since it's a little difficult for me to wrangle a full sheet of 3/4 inch plywood onto a table saw, I used the track saw instead. I was super lucky because it just so happened that Mike from Modern Builds had just made these 3 track saws, and I'll put a link to his video in the description box. Once I had cut all the long pieces for the sides, top, and bottom, and each shelf, I then needed to make a lot of smaller pieces to be spacers. I used a track saw. You're welcome to use a table saw, that's probably the most precise, or a chop saw, that's good too. You could use a hand saw, but I wouldn't recommend using a utility knife. Once your pile of plywood is about 6 feet tall, then it's time to sand. I found that sanding goes by quickly if you start out by singing. The pieces don't need to be all over sanded, just break down the edges, get rid of any excess pieces, and smooth over the sharp corners. I started out by putting a thin layer of glue on each of the spacers and attaching them to the sides of the shelf. I held the glued pieces in place with squeezy clamps while still maintaining that 3/4 inch distance for the shelves to go in. While in theory that's a good idea, there were literally too many moving pieces, so I switched over to a new thought process. My battery-powered finish nailer. I simply used it to tack all the pieces into place while the glue set, and it worked a treat. Now that I seem to have that under control, I'm going to tell you a little bit about another way to get things under control. I forget everything all the time. I used to write all my passwords in a notebook, but then I forgot where I put it. Now I don't have to remember them because I put all of my passwords into Dashlane. With Dashlane, I can store, manage, and change all my passwords in one place. Dashlane will also automatically fill out forms and payment information with just one click. If you sign up for Dashlane's premium service, you can sync all your passwords, secure notes, and autofill information across all your devices and log in anytime, anywhere. Then download the app to check out my favorite feature, which is where you can store your passport or ID information, because I'm all about having a backup from a backup. So if you're looking to get more organized, click the link in the description box and enter the promo code HOMEMADE2018 to get 10% off your premium subscription. Even though I had carefully planned out this project, I still ended up with a little bit of discrepancy when I glued all the pieces together. But no problem there, I just used my circular saw to even it up and then hand sanded it smooth. To put it all together, I lined up the side pieces, put a bead of glue on them, and then put all the shelves in. I used long clamps to keep the pressure on the sides while I used the finish nailer to lock them into place. Then I flipped it over and did the exact same thing on the other side. I scooted the shelf all the way to one side of the room so that I could glue and attach the top with the finish nailer. Then I scooted it all the way to the other side to attach the bottom. I finished the entire shelf with one coat of wipe-on poly.
So that wasn't so bad, right? It's just plywood, glue, and finish nails. And I know that some of you are gonna give me a lot of grief about how finish nails are not strong enough and you should have used screws. Well, it's plenty strong. Look. Didn't even budge. One of the great things about moving out here to the desert for a year is that it gave me a blank slate to start over again. So while I still don't have a bed frame, I do now have storage, and that, to me, is way more important. We got all these bins from IKEA, and we have tons of stuff to put in them, so that's gonna be the next step. Don't worry, there's no video on that.
For more detailed information, check out our website. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram to see what I'm up to on a daily basis. And make sure you leave a comment, a thumbs up, and subscribe to this channel. Also, subscribe to my channel.